Welcome back to Worn Out and Wired, a conversation about everything and nothing all at the same time. You're here with Rolby, and Jessica's not going to be here today. Unfortunately, she's taking her third board exam, 3 out of 4. These are national board exams. She is extremely stressed, has been studying nonstop, and she's a very smart girl. And in order to keep her sanity, I was like, hey, why don't I just record the podcast this week? That way you can just, keep focusing. So I dropped her off at her school, and right now she's just kind of hanging out with her colleagues and studying for this board she has coming up in like a couple days. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see her amazing reactions, because that's why we kind of wanted to start this podcast to begin with. She makes me laugh so much. She makes me laugh every time I tell her something. Her reactions are like, they fuel my urge to just like show her ridiculous things so she can react to them. Today we're not gonna have Jessica. It's just gonna be me. In the last episode, we talked. It was kind of a funny episode. Actually, before I get into that really quick, I need to talk about this right here. Let's see. Oh, can you see it? Yeah. I recently was riding my bike. I ride BMX, and some blue Toyota, I will forever hate blue Toyotas now, decided to honk at me. And all of a sudden, I just was wondering why he honked at me. I was nowhere near him. I had the right of way. I was supposed to be in the road in that area. He had so much room to go around me, but for some reason, he decided to aggressively honk at me, and he caused me to look back in that moment. He passed me, and I was like, what the hell is that all about? And as I looked forward, my front wheel kind of slipped, got a nice little road rash from it. And I just want to show you guys, because if anybody that knows me, they know that I get hurt kind of often doing my hobbies, my passions, which are skating, BMX, all that. Luckily, filmmaking, I never hurt myself. So I just want to get that out of the way in case you see this thing. It's, Jessica didn't beat me up. So she's not going to be in here. In the last episode, we just had a little fun. She was going out to a friend's house because she has not been socializing. She hasn't really been doing much other than seeing a couple of her friends, and we'd go out to eat and stuff. But she's just been straight up studying for the last couple months. And so she wanted to go out, go to this little party with her friends. Sorry, not this little party. She went to a little party. I keep saying little party. I have an issue with that. I always constantly belittle things. I'll be like, oh, you're doing your little thing over there, and it's it's not little. It's a big thing. Whatever you do is big. So sorry, Jessica. So she went to a party, and so before she left, I was like, oh, let's record the podcast. I have some crazy things I want to talk about. She's been pretty stressed and overwhelmed with everything, so I haven't really I've been taking control of just figuring out what we're going to be doing each week. And so we're going to get back to a little bit more of regimented and a little bit more of a grounded podcast. For the most part, I have some ideas, and I want this thing to grow organically, so we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. And so last week, I'm rambling here. I'm super hyped up, but you'll understand why. So last week we talked about UFOs, and it was kind of a silly podcast. I had some funny questions to ask her. And I've been into UFOs since I was 11, maybe even younger. I was into just all that weird stuff, anything that had to do with mythical creatures or anything like that. I was super into. And it's funny because I'm not into sci-fi. I really don't enjoy, I never enjoyed reading sci-fi books or anything like that, or watching sci-fi movies. I can get into them, but I'm more grounded, or I'm more into real things. So if there's a chance of something being real, then it really piques my interest. So when it comes to aliens, UFOs, or certain Bigfoot or anything like that, I eat it up. I just eat that stuff up. I love it. And the reason is because there's a chance, whether it's small or whatever you think, there's a chance that it could be real, and then there's all these there's this lore behind all of that, and it's amazing. I love it. So last week we talked about UFOs and whatnot, and I just wanted to address that I had just woken up from a nap, and I wanted to get the episode out. So she was getting ready. That's why she had all the cool makeup on. And there was something that was unidentified on my head. And I just want to apologize. I swear I don't have a huge cowlick, and I had just woken up from a nap, and I just wanted to address that and let people know that I was hurt when I saw it. I was editing and I was like, no, because I remember like looking in the mirror and being like, yeah, I'm all right. I don't really care about my hair too much, but at the same time, I like had a giant cowlick in the back of my head, and that it was cracking me up. So now that I've addressed that, we're gonna get to our next thing on the list here, which is some of the stuff that's been happening with UFOs lately. And this isn't like a super, in-depth podcast about things. It's more, that's why we our whole idea was just to have a conversation about whatever it is, whether it's memories, whether it's like old stories or crazy things that we see. Like, we just want to leave it open-ended as for right now. I mean, maybe as we grow and as we like keep doing this, we'll find our little spot or our niche, but right now we just have fun, like just coming up with ideas and then making a video, and it's forcing both of us to, for one, create, but also to like put out whatever we do, because we both we've always loved content creation. When I say both, I mean Jessica. We've both loved content creation. I've been like making things and putting out videos and skits and stuff for a long time. Like, even when I was a kid, I used to film skits with my family members, and like of me pretending to like stalk my cat and like treat it like a wild animal, like I was Steve Irwin or something. That's something I've always been into, like mockumentaries. I've loved documentaries growing up. Like I said, I've just like always been into content creation. I've always been like filming things and like making things. And so this has been nice. It's been forcing us to just like, we made a commitment and we just been like doing it without questioning anything, and we're just like moving with it. And so that's something that we skipped 1 week because Jessica was sick, and I was helping her kind of like get over her sickness, and I was helping her like get better. So we really didn't have time that week, but I want to make sure not to skip any weeks. I want to make sure to put out a video every Sunday, just talk to whoever's listening out there and just like have fun, create something, put it out. And that's my goal, and that's what we're gonna stick to. Today we're gonna talk about some UFO stuff, and this really awesome YouTube channel that I found. Actually, my friend sent me, and I've been literally obsessed with it. I've been watching all of their videos, and so we'll get into that, and then we're also gonna dive deep into that Telekinesis dude that we put in the last video. Now, the last video doesn't have many views, but I do put out clips, and that clip went pretty crazy, and we got a lot of interesting comments and a lot of people kind of being mean, which is fine. I could care less what people think of us on the internet, but excuse me, at the same time, like I do want to like deep dive into it and give more of my personal opinion, and not just let people think that I'm 100% into thinking like 100% on that being real, because I know that there's editing tricks. I know there's all types of stuff. So those are the couple of things we're going to talk about, and so let's get right into this. So UFOs. Again, I've been into UFOs since I was a kid. I used to watch all the this old show called Sightings, and they would always go over different different UFO sightings or different videos and stories and stuff, and I just loved it as a kid. And so recently, with that hearing that I was talking about, where some whistleblower came and talked to Congress about what he knows and what he was allowed to talk about, I thought it was insane. I just think it's crazy how the government is starting to like admit, or certain parts of the government, or they're allowing like whistleblowers. There's a whistleblower protection plan now in place where they can't get in trouble for like talking about this stuff, because it is like, we should all be wondering what's out there, and we should all be like demanding to know what they know, in a sense, because it's like it's a global thing. Like, people should know about UFOs or know about what's going on. So when they did that hearing, like I watched a lot of it, I read a lot of it, I was reading about the hearing, and I still haven't watched the entire thing, because to be honest, like I've just been super busy, and I'm not like a journalist or an investigative type of person, but I'm starting to like get lost in the idea of like really looking into this stuff. And so it was funny, because I've been watching all these UFO videos and kind of, learning about it again, because I kind of lost touch with that for a while. And then recently Mexico held a hearing where this guy, an investigative journalist, I believe. Actually, let me look this up to make sure I'm not giving any wrong information. Jamie Musan, I think I'm saying it right. He's a longtime UFO researcher. He was joined by Mexico's the Mexican Congress and a former U.S. Navy pilot, and they talked about a lot of things that were going on, and they basically the big new the biggest thing that happened was they actually brought out 2 boxes with supposed alien mummies, 1,000-year-old alien mummified corpses. And when my friend sent me that, I had a few people just sending me all the articles about it. At first I was like, what is, it looks like a joke. And of course I'm going to be showing it on screen so you can tell yourself, you can look at it yourself. It looks like something you make with paper mache. It just doesn't look real. Now he did have supposed report, they did DNA analysis, they did x-rays, they did 3D modeling where I think I don't really know, and I didn't really need to look into it more. My friend did send me the entire hearing. Someone had posted it live, or they did a live stream of the hearing, and so I did watch a good portion of it. It was 4 hours long, and a lot of the info in there was really interesting, and there was some cool things that happened, just talking about Brazil's really deep history with different sightings and crashes and a bunch of stuff. And so it was really interesting to watch. And the U.S. Navy pilot also talked about his encounters with things, which I think those are, if anything, those are the ones that interest me the most, because those people, as far as I would assume that they're pretty sane and they're pretty credible, and they are out there doing things that most people aren't, and they see things that are crazy. There are some pilots that have talked about chasing UFOs or chasing unidentified aerial phenomenon, or anomalous phenomenon as they're called now. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. And so when they talk about it, I really like researching that. I like hearing about different stories like that. And yeah, so when they actually pulled out the boxes and they unveiled it, and it looked like straight up some young kid made some paper mache aliens in the shape of E.T. I definitely was not sold, but I was also amazed that they would just have an entire hearing and bring these things out. And supposedly they were taken from the Nazca lines, which are in Peru. But there's a lot of controversy around the whole thing. There's a lot of controversy around why wasn't Peru involved and why they're taken from Peru, and so I have to do some research into that. And I've kind of decided that in the podcast I want to have some a couple segments that no matter what we're talking about, I can kind of bring in what I'm learning about in the sense of these crazy stories or whatever. So I think I might call that the Yeah Right report, because I understand that these things are easily can be debunked, or some things are just, are unidentified and can't be debunked, or they can't really get to the bottom of things. So I think that name is perfect, because, most people, when you talk about aliens or anything that's serious, in the sense of oh, there was a crash, or there are the government has actual biologics, which means alien bodies that came with the crashes, people are just yeah, right, they just don't believe it. And someone like me, I like to lean more on the side of anything is possible, and I do honestly believe that anything is possible when it comes to those things. I think that it's really interesting to like learn about, and it's also really interesting to think that like the government could know a lot more than we think, and like they could have way more evidence that of course has to stay classified, and that they have to like keep under wraps until they figure it out, because they're not just gonna like let us mere peasants find out about these crazy things like aliens, for instance. But there's a lot of like conspiracy theories that have actually been proven to be true, like the things that like the CIA has done, and with that, I was my friend, after telling him that I got back into the UFO stuff, because I would always watch UFO videos with him. We were so interested in that kind of stuff. He sent me this YouTube channel called the Y Files. Now, when I first started watching it, he sent me the video about crop circles, and all this stuff's gonna be linked in the description. So after you listen to this, you can go and like watch all this stuff. He sent me this YouTube channel called the Y Files, and it was about crop circles, and that just blew my mind, because for one, the production value of that channel is amazing. It's run by I believe it's all funded by his like Patreon, and it's just it's the research that goes into the stuff, the way he tells the stories, and the way he goes through and gives you the facts, whether it's like something that is unknown or something that can be debunked. Like, he goes through it, and I just love the way he does it, and I love all the topics that he's he's done videos about. And some of these videos are like an hour long. Like, I think the crop circle one was like 55 minutes, which is amazing, because I'm able to just sit there and just dive into these, like, this world of the unknown, and like just I just eat it all up. Kind of like the alien corpses, because they found out that they were cake. Yeah, that was just a joke, guys. So the Y Files, an amazing channel if you're into that, like the same kind of stuff as me. He talks about all different types of things. It's not just aliens, but just all these different like mysteries and conspiracies and all this stuff. But I will warn you that when I first started watching, I was like, this is cheesy. He has like a CGI goldfish that makes jokes, and it's kind of like his little like sidekick type thing, and it's kind of like the comic relief, the comedic relief that it adds to the videos, which is cool. And like, I'm sure it's created even like a stronger fan base, because people love that kind of stuff, and it is kind of funny. But when I first saw it, I felt like I was watching, like, I don't know, I just felt like I was watching some PBS show, like Bill Nye the Science Guy or something, or like there's this other one, I can't remember the name, but they had like their mascot for it, or like the same kind of deal. One of their like sidekicks, the main guy's sidekick was like a rat, and I'm gonna have to look that up and try to find it, but it gave me those vibes. And at first I was like, this is kind of stupid, I don't know if I really want to watch this. But then the more I listened, and the more I just like, let myself get into the story and get into all the facts that he had, and get into everything, like, it blew my mind. And soon I was telling Jessica that I want to kind of watch some of those with her as soon as she's done with her board, because right now she doesn't want to do anything other than like study, and I don't blame her. I want her to like focus. So as soon as she's done, we're going to be watching some of those videos and kind of like, not live reacting to them, but just like, I'm gonna cut it up and she's gonna react to some of the stuff, because I just can't wait to see her face with some of these things, because it's so funny, or hear what she has to say, like if she believes, because we're both people that are very like logical and rational, but we are not afraid to like let our imagination like run wild a bit. We're not afraid to like believe in things that might be considered like like woo woo or whatever, like magical, or like out of this world, like any like supernatural stuff. Like, we're very open to those things, because I feel like in order to life would be so boring if you were just straight up like, that doesn't exist, and I spent a lot of my life in that kind of phase where I was just like, when we die, there's nothing, like, you just go to sleep. Like, that's how I used to think when I was younger. I was just like, science is everything, if there's no facts, then I don't really care about it. And that's why I was like, even though I was into UFOs and stuff, like I said, if there's like a little bit of a chance of it being real, then I can get into it. If not, if I just think it's completely fictional, it just doesn't do anything for me. Like, I don't really find interest in it. So yeah, we're both people that can kind of like let ourselves think about those things and just have a kind of what if mentality towards things. Like, what if that's real? Like, what if UFOs have been here? What if the government has like way more information about UFOs? It's super interesting, and it makes me feel like a kid again, in that sense. Like, it lets my imagination have some fun. It lets me like I said, life would just be boring if I didn't think like that, and also like I believe my mom on certain things that she's talked about. Like next month we're going to be talking a little bit more about ghosts and like the spirit world. And my mom has some really interesting stories and some really interesting like life experiences that have really made me believe in a lot more than, you know, what most people believe, or what, you know, some people that are a little bit more closed-minded, I would say. So yeah, there's that. There's the Mexican guy. I don't believe that. I don't think that those corpses are real, and there's a lot of people debunking them, and there's a lot of like a lot of the universities or like the tests that were run on it, they're already been kind of like debunked. So I'm just talking about that in the sense of like, that was like interesting and it was funny, and it kind of sets back the whole UFO thing a little bit. But you know, whatever, it lit the internet on fire, so I had to mention something about it. Another thing that NASA just did was they just did a whole they basically like announced who was going to be head of their UAP research team, I believe, something like that. And then they put out this like 34-page document talking about a lot of the UAPs that had happened. And again, if you don't know what a UAP is, it's just like a UFO, but that's the new name for it. Unidentified anomalous phenomenon. Well, yeah, I think that's it. I messed it up in the last podcast, but it was late and I was literally like, last podcast was a fever dream. It was so much fun. So yeah, they announced that. They announced the head of that, which they kind of didn't at first, supposedly. There was like this whole drama about it where they didn't want to announce the guy's name. They finally announced the guy's name, and he has connections with some other stuff that's a little sketchy. And to be honest, like, NASA is awesome. I always say Nassau, like the Bahamas. NASA is awesome. I mean, I love the idea of space travel. I think that it's very important for like us as humans to like try to venture into space and learn more about it, you know, learn more about like the planet's origins, our universe's origins, or our galaxy, whatever. And but at the same time, they've done some sketchy stuff, and this is all part of like this Yeah Right report. I'm gonna start doing like a segment in every podcast where I kind of like deep dive into some things, and like we talk about it, and I give you guys some like stuff to think about, or maybe stuff to get like mad and angry at again, and like call us ridiculous or call us like unintelligent. But it's fine, because I think it's like really important to like question things, and I find that stuff so interesting. So right before the my friend had sent me that YouTube channel, the Y Files, I had found a clip on Joe Rogan's podcast, which again, Joe Rogan's podcast also has a lot of like controversy around it, just because like of the people he brings on or the things. But I'm a pretty open-minded person. I don't watch it religiously. I've only watched like a handful of episodes, but those clips go around, and like sometimes he has really interesting people on, and one of those people was James Fox, I believe that's his name. He made the documentary called Moment of Contact, and what it was a documentary about a Brazilian UFO crash where supposedly 3 women had witnessed an actual alien like in a field, like I think it was a few days or possibly like a week after the crash. And they, to this day, like it happened in 1996, and to this day they still like stand by their word. And it's like, it sounds like such an insane like concept of like an alien actually being around and people seeing it, and to the point of where there was an officer who captured the alien and then died a couple weeks later from like an immune failure. Like it's just so crazy. It was so like ridiculous sounding. And but the guy was so, James Fox, the director and the creator of like, he's the creator of the documentary, and he's made a few other documentaries. He was so passionate about just watching it and deciding for yourself. His whole thing was like, just listen to the witnesses, just listen to the people in Brazil. I don't remember how to say the I'm sorry, yeah, completely different name. Varginha, I think it's Varginha in Brazil. And yeah, so there was a UFO crash, and supposedly from, if you watch the documentary, in my opinion, you're gonna believe it, because the more I watch and the more you hear the people, they have no reason to be lying. I mean, the entire town believes it, and there's so many people that have like friends or family that didn't witness the actual alien, but who had like some relation to it, like people that were there when they blocked off certain areas for the military, and the military, like they did like blockades, and they just denied it after, and they wouldn't give you real reasons, or they wouldn't give the people real reasons of why they were blocking off areas. And during that same time, those girls said they witnessed the alien, and then like a few days later from that, there was like all these stories and again eyewitness reports, and like people coming out, and he did interviews with all of them where they brought this creature, this alien, to hospitals to find out what it was, you know what I mean, to like do like research on it. And it was like one of the stories was they brought it to a hospital, like the military did after the guy had captured it. They brought it to a hospital to do x-rays on it. They kept it in a box, and at that point I think it had died already, or maybe they killed it, I don't know, but it wasn't alive. They brought it like in a body bag or in like a box, and they did the x-rays through it. They didn't let the doctors see any of the x-rays. They didn't let anything. They just brought it in. A bunch of military people made them do it. As soon as they got the x-rays printed out, took them, and they left. And they brought it to a few different places. And one of the things I thought was pretty interesting was that anywhere that the alien was, or anywhere that people had witnessed anything that had to do with it, and even in the hospital, they said the smell was putrid, like a disgusting smell, almost as if like let's call it the creature. The creature wasn't able to sustain itself in the environment, our environment on Earth, and it was like excreting like an oil, and it just smelled really bad. And it sounds crazy, and it sounds like something that was totally made up, but when you watch the documentary, it is so interesting, and it's insanely like believable at that point. And he does a really good job, and I think it took him 12 years to make the documentary. Like it was a task. It wasn't just like go there, interview some people who have been talking about it for a while, and like no, these people didn't talk about it. They came out in the beginning, and then it kind of ruined their life because everyone mocked them, or like, you know, people were telling them to like again, it's crazy, but these people in suits, kind of like a Men in Black type situation, were coming to them and being like, just, we'll give you money if you say that you were lying about it, you know? And usually I would just like dismiss stuff like that, but again, when you watch the documentary, you're like, wow, like this is pretty real. This is very believable, and it's really insane because these people have no motivation to do it, in the sense of like, it's not like they were like trying to sell their story, or it's not like they wanted to come out and have been like trying to talk about it. It's like these people are in hiding, or they just like completely stopped talking about it after the incident, because again, it ruined their life. Like they became like the laughing stock of like the town, to some people. Some people believed it, especially if they might have seen things, or they, you know, but it's just the most interesting documentary. I watched that with like, I think it was 2 hours long, or a little under 2 hours, and I watched every minute of it like just with my jaw dropped. Like I was just like, I cannot believe that this is even like a thing, because I had never heard about it, for one, and then two, it just sounds so insane. So when you actually watch all the people talking about it, and you hear the whole story, and you see him going through and finding anybody involved, I mean, like from traffic control people to anything, it's just, he did the research in order to like really make you believe that this happened. And to be honest, I'm a firm believer in UFOs, so to me that was just an insane event for the world. So yeah, Moment of Contact. I would definitely say to watch that. I think I had to pay like $5 on YouTube to watch it. You might be able to watch it places for free with ads, but I hate ads so much. I pay for YouTube Premium because I just hate watching ads. I hate being taken away from what I'm watching. So if $5 to watch something that could be, I don't want to say like irrefutable, like I'm sure people that don't believe will say that it's completely fake or whatever, but when you see him talk to so many people, and some people didn't even want to talk about it, but they knew exactly why he was coming to them. Some people had to have their identities like, you know, kind of masked in the sense, or like remain anonymous because they just don't want anything to do with it because it ruined their lives, but they still came forward and talked about it and gave their part of the story. It's just, oh my god, it was the best documentary. So it kind of like reignited my love for UFOs and like the unknown a bit. So that's why I talked about, only when Jessica and I were coming up with the podcast idea, she came to me and was like, I would like to do a podcast. I think that'd be fun. And I was like, oh, I think that would be super fun, because I just know that she's a very animated person, and I just knew that like it would be so much fun to have these conversations with her, whether like whatever we're talking about. I just knew that it was just gonna be like overall just fun and funny. So I was like, let's do a comedy podcast. We're not gonna take ourselves too seriously, but we can talk about anything we want, and you know, we can do that. When she came up to me about it, we were going through all the different ideas, you know, like what could we talk about, what should we do, because everyone wants you like, or it's smart to like niche down and define like a specific thing you want to talk about. But that has always kind of burned me out from making content in the past, because I have so many different like passions, so many different like interests, that like thinking of one thing to like really talk about is kind of like boring, and it becomes like something, and it just, I feel like it was gonna like, again, just burn us out. So we kept it pretty open and just wanted to create like something where we can have conversations, and like, you know, eventually we want to have guests and whatever we're talking about. And but I remember saying right away, I was like, we should talk about like aliens or like some crazy stuff that's going on in the world, like find like mysteries or whatever, because that's what I'm into, and that's a lot of that stuff. If I'm either watching like I'm either watching like commentary things, like reaction videos of you know, some like influencers that I like, or I'm watching some crazy stuff like that. So yeah, so that's why I was like, as soon as all this UFO stuff started popping up again, I was like, oh my gosh, we got to talk about it. We have to talk about it. But all right, so enough about UFOs, because I don't even know anymore. It's been like, it's crazy, because like I started thinking about them again, started researching, and all of a sudden like all this other like new stuff has been coming out, and I just feel like, I don't know, something's gonna happen soon, whether it's like the government really showing us insane evidence of it, or like, you know, some aliens coming and saying what's up to us. So who knows what's gonna happen, but I'm gonna be here and we'll be talking about it. The next thing I wanted to talk about was SenpaiKae, and if you saw the last episode, at the end, or towards the end, we went through this guy's Instagram account, and this guy claims to be the founder of Kai Chi. I guess his name is Kai, and or Kai Chi. I don't know how to say it, but either way, he basically has all these videos where he does like I hate talking about it, because we put out a short where we showed us reacting to his stuff, and we were both like, I kind of believe in this, where he was basically using his energy to like move bottles, like water bottles, or like, you know, like do all these things that like a lot of people fake and can be easily done with editing tricks or whatever. But when I saw his, what struck me as different about it was like, as an editor myself, as someone who understands like green screens and cuts and editing tricks and all these different things, like some of his videos I can possibly debunk and, you know, maybe find like the cut, you know, or find like a way that he could do it. And some of them, I don't know, like anytime I would think like, oh, he's probably doing it this way, he'd post a different video, or I'd go and I'd find a different video of his where it's kind of like he wouldn't be able to do that. And so I wanted to watch some more of his stuff, and I wanted to basically like go through it, because we had a lot of backlash in those comments, to a point of where like people were just being mean. That's the internet. You go on any type of, it could be the most wholesome video, and someone's gonna be like just so mad and just so angry and like saying such like horrific things to people. Like it could be something so simple, like someone showing their cat and being like, oh, I love my cat, and they're like, oh, you love your cat because you're an idiot and only idiots love cats. Like people go nuts on there. So I understood why we were getting backlash in the shorts. I totally understood it. a lot of people are like, oh, this is editing, how could you believe this, like, you guys have no IQ, like, and like, you know, for me, I'm not the smartest guy, I'm not the brightest bulb, but my girlfriend's extremely smart. Jessica has gone through so much schooling, she's done so much studying, so much research, she's very, very smart, and like, I basically, what I'm saying is she's smarter than me, and she, in her field of acupuncture and oriental medicine, she's also had to go through like legit, not that that stuff isn't legit, but in most people's eyes, she's had to do like the Western side of it as well. So with that being said, like, she knows both sides, and we're very logical, we're very rational people, we're very skeptical people, but we're not afraid to just like voice our opinions on something that could be real. Like, we're just like, you know what, it could be real. I need some coffee. Okay, so with that being said, I'm gonna find some of his videos, we are gonna watch them, and I'm going to talk about them and basically explain why I don't think that these are faked. Now, disclaimer, there is a huge percent chance of it being fake, okay? Like, I'm not saying that he's 100%, like, he has superpowers, but what I'm saying is, I can't find the cuts, I can't think of how he edits them, and so I'm open to debate, I'm open to like people like showing me or like creating videos and doing the same thing he's doing, but for the life of me, I cannot figure it out. And that says a lot, because usually I'm the first one to be like, oh, that's CGI, oh, that's like, you know, that's easy to edit, that's whatever. And yeah, so what we're gonna do, I don't want to watch the same ones we watched last time, so we're gonna scroll down a bit and we're gonna go a little farther back. So let's go to this one. It says first time telekinesis. I gotta turn the audio off. Actually, maybe I'll keep the audio on. Hopefully it doesn't mess with the... So that way you can hear it, because some people were saying, we're gonna just start going through what people were saying. Okay, so in the background you can hear like a door opening. You can hear shuffling because of his movements, and anything with aluminum foil has been like debunked. There's a lot of videos out there that do the same thing, like people saying they can do, like they've been working on their telekinetic powers, and they're basically just using the force of their hand, the wind that comes off of it, and that's what's pushing the, you know, the aluminum foil. Aluminum foil is super light. It's really easy to like move. You could just barely blow and it'll move, right? So with stuff like this, I'm not really like too impressed, just because of how light aluminum foil is. And the same with like the empty water bottles. Water bottles are super light, so I can understand how like any force of air can you know, can cause them to move. It's the way he does it and the way that he shows all the different angles, and to be honest, again, I just can't wrap my head around like the fact that these are edited. One thing I always do is I look for other videos of the person or like what else they've done, and to see if like, oh, they obviously edit because they make these other videos that are really good. This guy seems like a normal dude and a normal guy in a sense, or a normal kid. I don't really know how old he is, but he's been posting videos since 2019, it seems. This is the first one he has on there, and he has other videos where he goes through and to show like his progress. And if you look at the way the aluminum foil moves, it could be the force of his hand on this one. Like I said, these don't really impress me too much. The more you watch it, you could see it kind of like moves a little bit when he's moving around, like right there you see it moving. So the force of his hand and that air, whatever. So this one doesn't impress me, but these are one of his like one in the beginning. I haven't seen this one, I don't think. This is from 2022, and I can see why people like his actions and his like mannerisms kind of like are over the top. Like this one. Let's hear the sound. And I believe, yeah, there's a little bit of water in there, which it's a gallon, so like that's a decent amount of water. Wind's not going to move that much. The audio lines up. You don't hear anything else on the side. Again, if he's an editor, he's just like if he's editing these, he's just an amazing editor. Like, he's doing a great job, because I always look for like things that are like different. Like I'll listen to the audio and I'm like, oh, there's a cut there or whatever. So if he's, let's say he's editing this and then turning on something like someone said something about an air gun, and I was like, what? Like, some of them, yeah, I could see that, because like he could be doing it off camera. You know, he could have like someone with an air gun, or someone with something, like someone said a leaf blower too, and I'm like, which is so loud, so you would hear that. He would have to like change the audio, like match up, and have like the room sound, so that way he can just like cut out the actual sound and just place the room sound. And then, you know, there's just like a lot of editing that goes into that, like audio editing, in the sense of like he can't just like turn on something that's gonna have a lot of air without you hearing it. And like even an air gun, you kind of hear like the pop or whatever. So if he is editing it and using like air, he would have to do that, which there's a possibility of for sure. But if you look here, I don't know if there's like, oh, you can't zoom in on these videos. I don't know if there's something behind it. I don't know if like, I just don't know. Like, it's not a POV, it's not a point of view type video where like you can only see his hand, which those can be like cut. I'm gonna watch him now to see if there's like a cut at all when he starts doing it. I don't see any shadow differences in the back, because you can see like minor, you know, you gotta look for like the minor things, like where is there a cut, where is he stitching the video together, and then on top of that, how is he getting that thing to move? Someone had said like he puts on a green screen suit and then, you know, he moves it, and then I don't think they understood how green screen works, to be honest. But the way green screen works is you have to have 2 shots. Let's say you're gonna green screen something like that. He would have to have a stable shot of the scene without anything in there. Then he would have to do the action, like pretend to move it. Then he would have to have another shot of him in a green screen suit moving it, so that way he can then key the original shot, which has nothing moving, it's just like the scene by itself, key that onto the green screen. So that way he would technically become like invisible. You have to have like something to key that green screen on. It's hard for me to like describe it in a way that's easy to understand. So maybe like in a future video I'll like go through what green screening is, because like I want to like follow this guy's like journey through this, because this is so interesting to me. But if he's green screening it, he's doing a really good job. Now, again, this is like an older video, and there's a good amount of water in there. Things like decently heavy, something where like it'd have to be a lot of air to move it, or he would have to have like screens. People had said like magnets in there. Obviously, he moves it around. You don't see any magnets. There's nothing like that. He's not using magnets. He could be using string. It does spin. So let's say he puts it down, but although he does have it all there, so the string, like let's say he put some string on the handle of the jug, and when it gets pulled a certain way, it's going to move. But that would mean that wherever the string is, that's the direction of where it's going to go and how it's going to like spin it, if that makes sense. So it's obviously not on the little handle. It could be on the top, but when he holds it up and does that, you would see string, or it would just have to be, he would really have to like plan these out perfect, because if you're doing this with it and there's string attached and then you put it down, someone would have to be sitting there and like tightening up the string, getting it ready to just move it slightly. And again, it's possible, but I just don't see it. Do I think he could be faking this? 100% there's a possibility of that. But do I believe in it? I kind of do, and I want to believe in it. And I think that's the problem, is that I want to believe that someone can do this. Something like this, there's obviously no cuts there that I can tell. It's pretty fluid motion, and he's showing he's showing behind him. So whatever is forcing the water bottle to fall that direction has to be behind him because it's going that way. Someone was saying like, oh, it's air. If it's air, then whatever direction, that's where it's going to be. So if he's showing himself from this angle and I'm going like that, the air would have to be coming from me, from this way, and then it would fall that way. But it doesn't. He's showing that there's nothing there. So like, I don't know how you would necessarily edit this other than like a string or, you know, cutting it to where there's a video of it falling and then you're keying yourself out or like you're masking yourself out. But like that one moves a little weird, but then again, it's like if you're shooting an energy blast at something, it might move a little weird. It's just so interesting to me. Like these videos boggle my mind. Again, the angle he's doing it at is a good angle to like show what's around. Now, if the bottle shoots from left or right, this one just shakes. There are some flashes like you can see in the video itself, and those could be cuts. But if you filmed anything around certain lighting, you can kind of like lights. All these ideas are kind of like hard to explain, especially because I haven't like prepared for it. I just kind of like wanted to talk about it off the cuff. But lights flash at a certain frequency. So if you were to, that's why if you've ever tried to film something under certain lighting, if your settings aren't right on the camera, you're gonna see the flash. You're literally gonna be like, why is the camera flat? Like, why is the footage all like strobe lights? And that's because like lights are literally vibrating at a certain frequency. So if you don't match that frequency in a sense, you're gonna see it. And I've had that happen a few times, and there's ways to like fix it in post. But for some reason, this just looks pretty natural to me. Like it is a little weird that there's like some flashes during it, but there's a good amount of water in there actually, and you see the water shake on the inside. Now this one he didn't show the bottom of it to show that there's like no magnets at the bottom and someone just kind of like shaking it a bit. But then again, if there was a magnet, you would see it in there moving. Excuse me, to a certain degree. So I don't know, what's this one? This one, it was literally, this meant nothing to me. I remember watching it. I went through the other day and I was just watching more of them, and I was like, well, he could have just let go of the lighter. It's not that, like, he could have let go of the trigger right at the perfect time. And I'm gonna watch his finger and see. I mean, his finger doesn't move. It moves after, but you might be able to like lightly let go and it turns off. That one really doesn't do anything to me. If you notice, in a lot of his videos, he shows himself doing it at different angles. This one, he's like showing the table, moving it around. I think we put this one on the last podcast. And like the way it moves is definitely like weird. Like for some reason when the bottle like shoots off, there is like a weird vibe to it, like the way it moves. But I just don't see how he's editing this one. Now these, like, you can't necessarily see behind him, so if someone were to say, oh, it's wind. Now let's hear the audio actually. He is making like a sound with his mouth on these. I mean, for you to just go, and that one he's off to the side, so if he were to blow it, it would move in the direction of his mouth. So again, there's all these little things that anytime I think of like, oh, this is probably how he does it, it kind of like gets thrown out the window. Because like if you see here, he's like sitting to the side of it and blowing, and it's not necessarily going diagonally, it's going straight where his hand is pushing it, where his hand is supposedly like shooting out the energy. So interesting. This one as well, someone was like, oh, this is just air. But if it is air, his hand motions are going in the exact same thing. So you would have to have air pushing it one way and then the air going this way. And this one, you hear the sound of like the fan. Me and my friend were debating this one because she was like, oh, he's just using air. And I was like, yeah, it's possible. Everything he does it with is really light. But because she was like, oh, do you hear that? That's definitely like the sound of like, there's a lot of sound going on. But if you have a bathroom where when you turn on the light, the fan goes on, like you kind of can't control that. Some bathrooms have 2 switches, but some of them, right when you turn the light on, that turns on. So I mean, it could be masking whatever sound he's using for like the air, but I don't know. This one you can see the reflection in the mirror, which I think is really important because you're getting to see the 2 angles of it, in front of him and behind him. He's pretty far away from it, and my friend was saying how like that the pistol motion or the pistol like hand thing is kind of like too theatrical, to where it's like, yeah, okay, he's doing that, but it's like it's too much, like he's doing too much. And I was like, well, that's actually, I believe someone doing that rather than like pushing, in a sense, because you're creating a little bit of air when you go like that. So like you technically could move something just by like, especially like tinfoil or something really light, which a Dixie cup, like a red cup, I mean, they're light, but they're not like too like light enough where like a little bit of air can move them that much. But when he goes like that, there's no air coming off your hand. So if he's doing that, he has to have something behind him that's shooting, you know, that's like pushing it with air. So yeah. Oh, I've never seen this one actually. Does it with a mannequin head. I don't know how heavy those are, but hair's pretty heavy. Like heavy enough to where like you would have to have a lot of a great, like a big force of air in order to like push that over. This one's a wider shot so you can see more of what's around him. No one would be able to hide underneath, as far as I can tell. Oh, and then it cuts. Okay, so this is, oh, I think this is like a montage of the different videos. See, with these closer shots, it's definitely a little bit more, I have a little bit more skepticism because like there's things that could be hidden. What is the caption? The caption says, this ability demands not just mastery of technique, but also respect for the energy we're working with. Remember, electricity is both a source of power and a force that can cause harm if mishandled. Electricity is an essential part of life, involved in everything from the technologies we use to the very workings of our bodies. That's science-driven, and Jessica was talking about that before. We conduct electricity, we are energy, like, that's backed by science. So for you guys he's not saying something that's too crazy. Electrokinesis then isn't just about external control, it's about understanding, connecting with these aspects of our world. So I guess this is him trying, I don't understand this, but I guess this is him like failing, like, but she does show often, he shows like things where he can't, where it doesn't work out for him. Oh, I've never seen this one.
Normal heartbeat, or, when desired, slow it down to induce bradycardia, or even speed it up, causing tachycardia. By mastering the intricate balance of my body's electrical signals, I can safely explore these extremes without harming myself, showcasing the incredible potential of the human body. I will provide 3 video examples of me performing these feats while being supervised by a medical professional. In the first video, I gradually reduce my heart rate, carefully monitoring my body's response.
This is interesting.
As my heart slows, my body will adapt to the decreasing blood flow, ensuring that I remain safe throughout the process. Once my heart rate has reached a critical point, I could voluntarily cease my heart's contractions, effectively entering cardiac arrest. However, the downside is that I would die. In order to demonstrate without dying, I will intentionally give myself a disorder called bradycardia instead. Bradycardia, also known as arrhythmia, is a condition where your heart rate drops below 60 beats per minute, but if I am not careful, it will result in a heart attack. In the second video, I demonstrated tachycardia, which is a bit trickier. I gradually increased my heart rate to exactly 200 beats per minute before stopping. The reason why I stop at exactly 200 beats per minute is because according to medicinenet.com, if you reach 200 beats per minute without being actively engaged in a workout session, this could be a sign of an impending heart attack or other life-threatening heart problems. While performing Tai Chi, do not try this at home or you may end up hospitalized. I can maintain a perfectly normal heartbeat or, when desired, slow it down to induce bradycardia, or even speed it up, causing tachycardia. By mastering the intricate balance of my...
So that's interesting. I've never seen that one either. So, I don't want to just keep going on and on about this, but the point of me bringing those up and watching some more videos and like talking about it was that in the comments of that short, and like even like my friends that I sent the podcast to, those clips, they were basically just like, there's no way. And to be honest, I felt the same way. Like I was like, there's no way this kid on Instagram is doing this much. He also, if you go to the link, he does have like not a course, but he says he like teaches it. And it is like there's like a 20, you send him like $25, and then like you get access to, I think, his Discord, and like you get like, I don't know. I want to be honest, I think the next podcast, I'm gonna like pay for it and see what else is involved. This is a process, okay? We're gonna really deep dive into this kid, because like so far he's only telekinesis, like the only telekinesis videos I've seen that I actually kind of like believe or can't explain. A lot of them are just pretty bad. Like I've seen some where it's like the things are just happening in reverse, so they throw something and then they reverse it to where it looks like that, but it's so obvious. It's like, and they're not trying to like fake it in that sense. Like it's kind of obvious that they just are making like a funny video, but this dude takes it very seriously. Like if you watch any of his stuff, he has some stuff on YouTube, it just shows like not his whole workout routine, but it shows like him doing some pretty impressive like workouts, like finger push-ups, and just talking about how dedicated he is to anything he does. So I don't know. I'm still, obviously there's still like a healthy amount of skepticism when I watch stuff like that, but there is like a healthy amount of believability on my end. Like I still want to believe, and I do believe that someone can do something spectacular like that. And there's so much, like Jessica was saying, there's so much of the like of the human brain and the human body that we don't know, and there's so many things that like we don't know. And I think she has a better grasp of some of those things, in the sense of like she's been in school for 13 years, and through her research and knowledge that's been built with acupuncture and oriental medicine, like there's a lot of things that Western medicine can't really like explain, or they just don't believe in that sense, because it's not like there's no hard evidence, but there is evidence of people like she had a professor do scalp points, like needles in the scalp, and she got someone who couldn't walk to stand up and walk and feel better. And if you watch the documentary that we talked about in that episode, I think it was episode 2 or 3, it was 3, he just helps people do amazing things that most like Western medicine would not believe, or they can't explain it. With her having that understanding of that, and with me just being someone who is open to believing things that a lot of people say are BS, it just creates like an environment or a mentality of anything is possible. And I think living my life in that way keeps me, for one, humbled, and 2, it gives me a sense of wonder that some people are missing in their lives. So like, not to get all like sentimental, or not to get too like weird at the end of this, but I just think that like the people that were commenting on that short were like a little closed-minded or negative, and I understand it. Like, we were basically just saying like we believe in these crazy videos, and if you see those kind of videos, like the SenpaiKae videos, if you see those on a regular basis, you just believe they're fake. And I did the same thing. I've seen so many, and I was just like, all right, this is so stupid. But when I came across his stuff and I actually went through it, every time I saw a new video, it just piqued my curiosity. It made me feel like what if he was able to control these things, and what if telekinesis is real? You know, what if like UFOs are real? What if like all this stuff that people want to make you feel like you're crazy for thinking, what if those things actually do exist, and one day we're gonna figure it out, and you know, and like the people who didn't believe are just gonna be like, oh, okay, I guess. And like people like me who have a, you know, more of a sense of wonder and more that they believe in stuff like that, we're, you know, it's not like a feeling of like, oh, I told you so, but it's more a feeling like I had a, you know, we had a feeling that those things were real. And I think if you live your life in that, in more of like a whimsical way where anything can be possible, because there's new scientific like findings, there's new scientific breakthroughs, there's like things happening almost every day that, you know, defy what we once knew. So I think if you have a healthy dose of that in your life, and just remain curious, it's you lead a better life, in my opinion. Because I can definitely say that like throughout my life, as soon as I think I was mentioning earlier how at one point in my life I kind of was very dead set on like, there's no afterlife, there's nothing, there's, you know, we don't have souls, like we're just like, what I used to say was we're just like blood bags, like we're just like these like vessels that just whatever, like once you die, you die. And I was kind of like in a more of a depressed state, and it wasn't like directly because I thought that, but more of just like, I don't know, there was just something about like that feeling of like, oh, okay, whatever, there's nothing there. I had no sense of wonder, you know. And I think that was like during like high school. There was a portion of high school where I was just like, I don't know, I was a little emo dude who just like didn't believe in like anything really. And then I don't know, something happened, and I don't want to get into what happened, but when you have like life experiences that are humbling, you tend, and it kind of makes you think differently. It made my life better in that sense of just like, I was open to so many things, and I was open to the possibility of magic, the possibility of like things like that, where you just don't know, the possibility of like, oh, maybe UFOs do exist, maybe there is like an afterlife, maybe, you know, maybe souls do exist, and we do have like a life force inside of us that then gets like put into something else, you know, like reincarnation or something like that. There's so many, like, I don't know what I believe in. I kind of just like am open to anything, and I love researching it. So while this podcast is definitely going to be, like I said before, grounded in that sense of just like talking about life experiences, or maybe going over like funny things like red flags, or like, you know, that kind of stuff, there is going to be portions of it and segments of it, or full podcasts just about these things that make your mind wonder. Like, and I think, again, I don't want to get like, I feel like I'm just rambling on, so hopefully this all makes sense, but I just want to like leave you with that sense. So if you watch this whole thing, or if you listen to this whole thing, just go about your life a little differently, you know. Go about it, and instead of like completely like blocking yourself off to certain things, leave a little space for like wonder. Leave a little space for your imagination to kind of, you know, run wild a bit. Obviously there's like an unhealthy way to do it. Like, you don't want to believe everything you see on the internet, and you don't want to like just fall into like cult like ideas or anything like that, because there are a lot of crazy things on the internet that are not good. But I just think like, if someone's not hurting somebody, or if like what they're talking about isn't hurting something, or isn't like too like, I don't even know how to put it into words, like not too controversial or something, you know, when it has to do with like things that are just like ideas that are beyond the normal belief system, maybe you should take some time to like learn about them and research them, and just like let your mind wander, have some fun with it. Like when we were kids, we kind of believed a lot more, and like, you know, we believed in Santa Claus, we believed in all that stuff, and like I think I think that childlike wonder is what has like kept me young, or kept me like feeling like happy, because the more you block yourself off to stuff, the more you just think that everything's a scam. And again, there's a healthy dose of that, and there's like an unhealthy dose of that, where you have to kind of like balance it out. So life is about balance. And I'm gonna stop myself here because I could just go on about this for so long. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I know it's a little different. It probably wasn't as exciting without Jessica here. She is like the energy that I needed in my life. So I hope that if you do watch this and you did listen to this, that you just take away the fact that I'm crazy, and that we're gonna have some more crazy stuff on the podcast in the future. So without further ado, have a great day. Get the Yang. Peace out, guys.